60-year-old Benjamin Ben Carter stood in the dusty corral of the C Ranch, watching his 35-year-old son Marcus argue with the bank representative. The morning sun cast long shadows across the land Ben had spent 40 years building from nothing. But today those shadows felt like a prophecy of the darkness that was about to engulf his life. The deed clearly states that Marcus Carter is the sole owner of this property. The banker was saying, his voice carrying across the yard with devastating clarity. Mr. Benjamin Carter has no legal claim to any portion of the C Ranch. Ben's weathered hands gripped the fence rail so tightly his knuckles turned white. 3 months ago, Marcus had asked him to sign some papers, claiming they were routine updates to insurance policies. Ben had trusted his son completely, never bothering to read the fine print that was apparently signing away his life's work. "Pa," Marcus called out, his voice lacking any trace of shame or regret. "You need to pack your things. The bank needs this property clear for the new mortgage arrangements." Subscribe to our channel to follow this shocking story of family betrayal and discover how one father's broken trust led to an incredible act of vengeance. Ben walked slowly toward his son, each step feeling like he was walking through thick mud. "Marcus, what have you done? This ranch has been my life for decades. I built every fence, dug every well, raised every building with my own hands. And now it's time for the younger generation to take over," Marcus replied coldly. "You're 60 years old, Pa. You should be thinking about retirement, not trying to run a working ranch. I'm doing you a favor. Ben's voice rose with disbelief. "You tricked me into signing over my own property, and you call that a favor?" Marcus's wife, Catherine, emerged from the ranch house with a satisfied smile on her perfectly made-up face. She'd never liked the rustic lifestyle, had always pressured Marcus to sell the ranch and move to the city, where her father's business connections could make them wealthy. "Benjamin," Catherine said with false sweetness, "surely you understand that Marcus needs to modernize this operation. Your old-fashioned methods are holding back progress." Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see how Ben responds to this ultimate betrayal and witness the shocking decision that will change everyone's lives forever. Ben looked around at the ranch that had been his whole world. The barn where he'd taught Marcus to ride, the pastures where they'd worked cattle together, the house where Marcus's mother had died giving birth to their second child, a daughter who'd lived only 3 days. Every inch of this land held memories, dreams, and the sweat of honest labor. "You want me gone?" Ben asked quietly, his voice carrying a dangerous edge that Marcus should have recognized but didn't. "It's for the best," Marcus said, not meeting his father's eyes. "I've arranged a room for you at the boarding house in town. You'll be comfortable there." "The boarding house," Ben repeated slowly. "You're putting me in the boarding house like some broken-down old man who can't take care of himself." Catherine stepped closer to Marcus, linking her arm through his. "We're not throwing you out, Benjamin. We're helping you transition to a more appropriate living situation for someone your age." Ben felt something break inside his chest, something that had been holding his heart together since his wife's death 20 years ago. His son, the boy he'd raised and loved and dreamed of passing his legacy to, had become a stranger willing to destroy his own father for money and a woman's approval. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to discover the incredible decision Ben makes next and how it will shock everyone who thought they could manipulate him. "All right," Ben said finally, his voice eerily calm. "If that's how you want it, that's how it'll be." Marcus looked surprised by his father's easy acceptance. "Good. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this." Ben walked to the house and packed his few personal belongings into 2 old saddlebags. Everything else, all the furniture and tools and possessions he'd accumulated over 40 years, he left behind. If Marcus wanted the ranch so badly, he could have all of it. But as Ben saddled his horse and prepared to ride away from the only home he'd known as an adult, he made a decision that would haunt Marcus for the rest of his life. "Marcus," Ben called out as he mounted his horse, "you might want to read those mortgage papers more carefully, especially the part about the mineral rights." Marcus frowned. "What about the mineral rights?" Ben smiled for the first time that day, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Those weren't mine to sign away, son. Those belong to the state, and the lease expires next month, without my signature to renew it. That silver mine that's been making you rich for the past 5 years is about to become worthless. Remember to subscribe to our channel to see how this revelation changes everything, and witness the most satisfying act of poetic justice in Western history. The color drained from Marcus's face as the implications hit him. The silver mine on the back portion of the property was what had made the ranch profitable, enough to attract Catherine's interest in the first place. Without it, the Triple C was just another struggling cattle operation in an increasingly difficult market. "Pa, you can't do that," Marcus said, panic creeping into his voice. "We need that mine income to pay the mortgage. Should have thought of that before you decided to throw your old man out like yesterday's garbage," Ben replied, turning his horse toward the gate. "Enjoy your ranch, son. Hope it's everything you dreamed it would be." As Ben rode away from the Triple C for what he knew would be the last time, he could hear Marcus and Catherine arguing frantically behind him. The bank representative was demanding to see the mineral rights documentation, and Marcus was realizing that his carefully planned coup was about to collapse around him. Ben didn't look back. He had 40 years of memories to sustain him, and more importantly, he had a plan. 6 months later, Ben Carter sat on the porch of a small but comfortable house on the outskirts of Silver Falls, Montana, reading a letter that brought a smile to his weathered face. The letter was from his lawyer in Wyoming, updating him on the spectacular collapse of his son's ranching empire. The Triple C ranch had been foreclosed on within 3 months of Ben's departure. Without the silver mine income, Marcus couldn't make the mortgage payments, and the bank had seized the property. Catherine had left him for a railroad executive in Denver, taking their 2 children and half of what little money remained from the sale of their personal possessions. But Ben felt no satisfaction in his son's downfall, only a deep sadness for what might have been. He folded the letter and placed it in his Bible, next to the photograph of his late wife, then turned his attention to more pleasant matters. "Mr. Ben," called 12-year-old Sarah Mitchell from the yard, "are you ready for our reading lesson?" Ben smiled and waved to the girl who had become like a granddaughter to him. Sarah was one of 8 children he was tutoring in Silver Falls, youngsters whose families couldn't afford formal schooling, but who deserved a chance at education nonetheless. Subscribe to our channel to follow Ben's incredible transformation, from broken father to beloved community patriarch, and see how loss became gain. Ben had discovered Silver Falls quite by accident during his wandering after leaving the Triple C. The small mining town was struggling to survive after the main silver vein had played out, and many families were barely making ends meet. When Ben learned that the town had no school and no teacher, he'd volunteered his services. "I may not have formal education," he'd told the town council, "but I can read and write in cipher, and I've got time on my hands and a heart that needs filling." The council had gratefully accepted his offer, and within a month, Ben had established a small school in the abandoned mining office. He used his own money to buy books and supplies, and his patient teaching style quickly won over both children and parents. "Today we're going to read about the American Revolution," Ben announced as Sarah and 7 other children gathered around the table. He'd converted into a classroom. "Who can tell me why people might fight for their freedom?" 10-year-old Tommy Brennan raised his hand eagerly. "Because nobody should have to live under someone else's boot." "Mr. Ben, people deserve to make their own choices." Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see how Ben's teaching touches individual lives and transforms an entire community. The irony of Tommy's answer wasn't lost on Ben. The boy had perfectly captured why Ben had chosen to walk away from the Triple C rather than fight Marcus in court. Sometimes the most powerful response to injustice was simply refusing to participate in it. As the morning progressed, Ben watched his students tackle their lessons with enthusiasm that reminded him why he'd found purpose in teaching. These children had so little in terms of material possessions, but they possessed curiosity, determination, and respect for learning that humbled him daily. "Mr. Ben," asked 9-year-old Mary O'Sullivan, "why did you leave your ranch to come teach us? Didn't you miss your family?" The question hit closer to home than Mary could have known. "Sometimes," Mary, we discover that family isn't just about blood relations. Sometimes we find family in the people who appreciate what we have to offer and who make us feel valued for who we are, not what we own. After school, Ben walked through the struggling town, noting the boarded-up storefronts and the worn-down faces of adults who were fighting to keep their community alive. An idea had been forming in his mind for weeks, and today felt like the right time to act on it. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to discover the amazing plan Ben devises to save Silver Falls and create something beautiful from the ashes of his old life. That evening, Ben called a town meeting in the same building where he taught school. The entire adult population of Silver Falls, maybe 40 people total, crowded into the small space to hear what their volunteer teacher had to say. "Friends," Ben began, "I've been living here for 6 months now, and I've seen what this town could become with the right kind of investment and leadership. You have good people, strong values, and children who deserve a future. What you lack is capital and opportunity." Mayor Patterson, a tired-looking man in his 50s, spoke up. "Mr. Carter, we appreciate everything you've done for our children, but this town is dying. The silver's gone, and there's nothing to replace it. That's where you're wrong." Ben said with a smile, "There's something more valuable than silver. Right here in this room, there's community, there's determination, and there's a willingness to work for something better." Ben pulled out a folder of documents he'd been preparing for weeks. "I'm prepared to invest $50,000 in Silver Falls, but not in mining or speculation. I want to invest in people." The room erupted in gasps and excited murmurs. $50,000 was more money than most of these people had ever seen in one place. Remember to subscribe to our channel to see how Ben's incredible generosity transforms Silver Falls and creates a legacy far greater than any ranch. "Here's what I propose," Ben continued. "We use the money to establish businesses that will make Silver Falls a destination, rather than just another dying mining town. A proper hotel, a restaurant, a general store that stocks quality goods, and a real school building that can serve children from surrounding communities." "But why would you do this for us?" asked Mrs. Brennan, Tommy's mother. "You barely know us." Ben's expression grew thoughtful. "Ma'am, I spent 40 years building something for my family, only to have it thrown back in my face. Now I want to build something for people who'll appreciate it and use it to create a better future for their children." The meeting lasted 3 hours as Ben outlined his vision for Silver Falls transformation. He would provide the initial capital, but the townspeople would own and operate the businesses. Profits would be reinvested in the community, creating a sustainable economy that didn't depend on extracting resources from the ground. "Mr. Carter," Mayor Patterson said finally, "I think I speak for everyone when I say this is the most generous offer we've ever received. But what do you get out of it?" Ben looked around the room at the faces of people who had welcomed him without question, who had entrusted their children to his care, who had made him feel valued and needed for the first time in years. "I get a family," he said. "Simply, I get a community that appreciates what I have to offer. I get the chance to build something that will outlast me and benefit people I care about." Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories from the American frontier that prove the strongest communities are built on love, trust, and mutual respect. 5 years after Ben Carter had ridden away from the Triple C Ranch with nothing but his horse and his dignity, Silver Falls had become one of the most prosperous small towns in Montana Territory. The hotel was always full of travelers drawn by the town's reputation for hospitality. The restaurant served the finest food between Denver and Seattle, and the school had become so renowned that families moved to Silver Falls, specifically for their children's education. Ben stood on the platform of the new train station, watching as another group of settlers arrived to make Silver Falls their home. At 65, he was still teaching, though he now had 2 assistant teachers to help manage the growing student population. He had never married again, but he was surrounded by people who loved and respected him as a father figure and community patriarch. Mr. Ben called out 18-year-old Sarah Mitchell, now his head teaching assistant. "There's someone here to see you." Ben turned and felt his heart skip a beat. Standing on the platform, Looking older and more worn than Ben remembered was Marcus. His son carried a single carpet bag and wore the humble clothes of a man who had lost everything. Subscribe to our channel to witness this emotional father-son reunion and see how pride and regret finally give way to understanding and forgiveness. "Hello, Pa," Marcus said quietly, his voice carrying none of the arrogance that Ben remembered from their last encounter. "Marcus," Ben replied, his tone carefully neutral. "What brings you to Silver Falls?" "I heard about what you've built here," Marcus said, looking around at the bustling town with obvious amazement. "I wanted to see it for myself. And I wanted to apologize." Ben studied his son's face, seeing genuine remorse. "There for the first time in years. How did you find me?" "It wasn't hard. People all over the territory talk about the man who saved Silver Falls, who turned a dying mining town into a thriving community. When I heard the stories, I knew it had to be you." Marcus's voice broke slightly as he continued. "Pa, I lost everything. The ranch, my marriage, my children. Catherine took them back east, and I haven't seen them in over a year. I've been working odd jobs, trying to figure out how to put my life back together." Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see how Ben responds to his son's humility and discover whether forgiveness is possible after such deep betrayal. Ben felt a familiar ache in his chest, but this time it wasn't the sharp pain of betrayal. It was the complex mixture of love and disappointment that comes with being a parent to a child who has made terrible choices. "I'm sorry for your losses, Marcus," Ben said sincerely, "but I need you to understand something. You didn't just take my ranch from me. You broke something between us that can't be easily repaired." "I know," Marcus said, tears beginning to form in his eyes. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I needed to tell you that I understand now what I threw away. It wasn't just the land or the buildings. It was the respect and love of the best man I've ever known." Ben looked at his son, seeing not the arrogant, greedy man who had betrayed him, but the little boy he had once taught to ride, the young man he had hoped would carry on his legacy. The anger he had carried for 5 years began to soften, replaced by the deeper wisdom that comes with age and perspective. "Marcus," Ben said finally, "what do you want from me?" "Nothing," Marcus replied immediately. "I don't want anything from you, Pa. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and that I finally understand what I lost when I chose money over family." Make sure to subscribe to our channel to discover how this conversation leads to an unexpected opportunity for redemption and second chances. Ben was quiet for a long moment, studying his son's face and weighing his words. Then he made a decision that surprised even himself. "Silver Falls needs a good carpenter," Ben said slowly, "someone who knows ranching and can help families who are starting farms in the area. The pay isn't much, but it's honest work, and there's a small house that comes with the job." Marcus's eyes widened with hope and disbelief. "Pa, are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a chance to prove that you've learned from your mistakes," Ben corrected. "But understand this, Marcus, if you come to work here, you'll be just another citizen of Silver Falls. You won't get special treatment because you're my son, and you'll have to earn people's respect the same way everyone else does." "I understand," Marcus said quickly. "I wouldn't expect anything else." Ben nodded toward the town. "There's one more thing. The children in my school need to learn that actions have consequences, but they also need to learn about forgiveness and second chances. If you stay, if you work hard and conduct yourself with honor, you'll be teaching them both lessons." Remember to subscribe to our channel to see how this act of forgiveness transforms both father and son and creates an even stronger community. 6 months later, Ben stood in the schoolyard watching Marcus teach a group of older students how to build proper fence posts. His son had proven to be an excellent craftsman and a patient teacher, and he had gradually earned the respect of the townspeople through hard work and humble behavior. "He's a good man," Sarah Mitchell commented, joining Ben at the fence. "Different from when he first arrived, but good. People can change," Ben agreed. "Sometimes it takes losing everything to find out who you really are." Marcus looked up and saw his father watching, raising his hand in a small wave. Ben waved back, feeling a peace he hadn't expected to experience again. The relationship between Then would never be what it once was, but it was something new and perhaps stronger, built on mutual respect rather than obligation. That evening, as the town gathered for their weekly community meal, Ben stood to address the crowd as he often did, but tonight his words carried special meaning. "Friends," he began, "when I first came to Silver Falls, I was a broken man who had lost everything that mattered to him. You welcomed me, gave me purpose, and helped me build something beautiful from the ashes of my old life. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories from the American frontier that prove love and community can overcome any obstacle." Ben's eyes found Marcus in the crowd, and he smiled. "Tonight I want to remind all of us that the strongest communities are built not just on shared prosperity, but on shared forgiveness. We all make mistakes. We all sometimes lose our way. But the measure of a person isn't in their failures. It's in their willingness to learn from those failures and do better." As the evening wound down and the townspeople headed home to their families, Ben sat on his porch with Marcus, both men comfortable in each other's company for the first time in years. "Pa," Marcus said quietly, "I want you to know that seeing what you've built here, seeing how these people love and respect you, it's made me understand what I should have been striving for all along." "What's that?" Ben asked. "A legacy that's about more than money or property," Marcus replied. "A legacy that's about the lives you've touched and the good you've done in the world." Ben nodded, looking out at the town he'd helped build, the school where tomorrow he would again teach children to read and dream, the community that had given him purpose when he thought his useful life was over. "Son," he said finally, "that's the only kind of legacy worth having. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales from the Old West that celebrate the transformative power of forgiveness, second chances, and the courage to build something beautiful." From life's most painful moments, the ranch Marcus had stolen was long gone, but the family Ben had thought he'd lost forever was slowly being rebuilt, stronger than before. And in Silver Falls, Montana, the legacy of a man who had chosen forgiveness over revenge continued to grow, proving that sometimes the greatest victories come not from defeating your enemies, but from helping them find their way back home.